These are going to be the top 10 service businesses that can realistically make you at least $1,000 a day. So some people start a service business and they absolutely crush it. They make great money. They build something that they're proud of and something that changes their life. But for every single one of those success stories, there are people that completely and utterly fail. They lose money, they burn out, and they end up going back to whatever it was that they were doing before. Because starting a business, it isn't easy, and running a business is even harder. And actually becoming successful takes a different breed of person. And the truth is, anybody can start a business, but very few people can actually make it in that business. And that's why picking the right business, understanding your market, and treating it like a real business makes all of the difference in the world. And here's the thing, you don't have to do it all by yourself. That whole I'll figure it out on my own mentality is the fastest way to waste your time and lose your money, okay? Every hour that you spend struggling to figure out what somebody else has already mastered is money out of your pocket. And the people that are too old school or too stubborn to accept guidance usually end up paying for it in lost opportunities or end up being 60, 65 years old in basically the same place, grinding it out day and night. And the truly successful business owners figure out how to leave the grind behind, building systems, building teams that can eventually work in the field by themselves as opposed to having to babysit those people every single day of the year. Now, the smarter move is to find somebody that you can trust, somebody that will offer you help, will offer you guidance. So I would highly suggest finding maybe a local mentor, connect with people who have already been where you're trying to go, or join a group that is open-minded and willing to share real, helpful information, their experiences, their knowledge, because education and research, these are not optional in business, okay? It is absolutely critical that you invest in your education, do your research. These are the things that are going to set you apart. That's why we've created a bunch of different resources for several of the businesses that we're going to talk about today. You can skip the guesswork, you can avoid the bad advice that you're going to get online, and you can get straight to what actually works in the real world. With that foundation laid, let's dive into the ranking. So number 10 is trash bin cleaning. This one is still a relatively newer niche, but it is growing and it's growing fast. The startup cost can run from $5,000 to $10,000 for the right pro-grade trailer setup, but you can also get started with a cheap pressure washer, a pump-up sprayer with the right combination of chemicals, and a truck for a lot less. But customers will pay anywhere from $35 to $75 per cleaning per can. But I do caution everyone in any industry, pump the brakes on big equipment purchases right out of the gate. The last thing that you want to do is figure out that this isn't the right business for you. It's not a good fit. The market isn't there. And then you have to lose big when you sell off the equipment that you purchased. But this is a viable business if you do it the right way. And the real strength is in the recurring revenue. If you can get into neighborhoods or HOAs, you get those folks signed up and it's going to be a lot easier. And if you can't do that, it does get a little bit harder to scale fast, which is why it's down here at number 10. But once routes are built, it is consistent and it can be very profitable. Number 9 is parking lot sweeping. Now, this one is a commercial play, right? Contracts with shopping centers and office parks. It's going to keep you busy year round. The equipment, though, it is not cheap. $10,000 to $25,000 depending on the sweeper that you buy. But you are trading that for steady income, steady repeat income. And one sweep might be, $100 to $200. But when you've got multiple commercial contracts, that really does start to stack up and it's recurring. And that is a great business model that we all should love. I've also seen guys start with backpack blowers, the goat blowers. And while it's not nearly as fast or efficient, it might be the smart move if you're just getting started. Build a customer base and scale the equipment as your business grows. Number 8 is a little different, and this is a remote service business. This is different because instead of buying equipment and hiring employees or doing the work yourself, you generate high value leads and then you sell those leads to other contractors in your market. Startup costs are really nothing if you do it organically with social media posts, building out websites, and cold calling. I have personally watched this work in real time. In fact, my son watched me run multiple businesses as he was growing up. He worked in the businesses as well, so he had a good understanding, a good foundation of what it takes and what we did to generate leads. And when he went away to college, he decided to start running some ads, and he started generating some leads, and he started building relationships with local contractors, and then he started selling them those leads. He didn't have to buy equipment, hire employees, deal with customers after he handed them off. He just did the selling and the marketing. He also built a remote service business academy to help walk you, if this is something you're interested in, through a step-by-step blueprint of his system where you connect customers to providers and you take your percentage. Now, before we move on, I want to make something very, very clear. No matter which business that you choose, you need to actually run it like a business. Every single one of these requires you to track your customers, send professional estimates, create invoices, and obviously you need to get paid. And that's why I suggest you get a good CRM, something like QuoteIQ. Obviously, I'm biased, but it's got everything that you need from the basics to the advanced features. Things like InstaQuote, InstaSchedule, the review multiplier, route optimization, automated email and text pipelines, all of the things that you need to actually run your business like a business. You can try to juggle all of that manually, but if you truly want to be successful, you need a system in place. And that's why I recommend using QuoteIQ. And the best part, you don't have to take my word for it. We have a 14-day free trial so you can test it out for yourself at myquoteiq.com. And number 7 on the list is window cleaning. Now, this one you can technically start for really next to nothing. A mop, a squeegee, some towels, it can get you going. Now, the process itself isn't terribly difficult, but here is the reality. Technique and experience play a massive role in efficiency and profitability. I've seen pro-level window cleaners knock out an entire house in the same amount of time that it took a beginner to do a couple windows. It is truly a real art form. And if you've ever seen somebody who's actually mastered it, you know exactly what I'm talking about. So for equipment, training, resources, check out the Window Cleaning Resource or the WCR. I have no affiliation with these guys other than just being a satisfied customer, which takes us to number 6, and that is lawn care. Now, I actually had a lawn care business. We ran it for 12 years before selling it. And the work itself is easy. You're mowing, you're trimming, you're blowing, but running it like a real business is the real challenge for most people, and that's why they don't grow, that's why they don't scale, and that's why they go away. Startup costs can be as much as $5,000 to $15,000 for your mower or your trailer and all the gear that you need, and that's without a truck. But you can start with the push mower, a string trimmer, and a broom. Again, efficiency is critical. Route density and optimization are equally important, and because the jobs are smaller tickets, usually $50 to $90 a yard, so you're gonna need some volume. 10 to 15 stops in a day is going to get you to that $1,000 mark. But here's the mistake that most new lawn care guys make. They undercharge, they undervalue themselves, and they don't make any real money. So you need to know your market, you need to know your worth, and you need to price accordingly and understand that customer acquisition is as important as clean lines and crisp edges. So number 5 on the list is junk removal. Now, this is a pretty quick cash generator. Startup costs really can range on this one, obviously. You can do it with just a pickup for smaller jobs. And if you want to scale your business, you're going to need to get into some bigger trailers. You're going to need some help doing this on the bigger jobs. Now, jobs can pay anywhere from $300 to $800 depending on the scope, the size, and the scale of these jobs. And if you get 2 or 3 in a day, you are going to clear $1,000 easy. Now, the downside is the physical labor and the disposal fees. So you got to be prepared. You have to know what you're getting into, and you also need to track your numbers and know your costs, or you could be losing or wasting money. But if your market But if you market your business to the right people, you work hard to generate lead flow, the demand is always going to be there. It's just about getting those customers able to find you. But like any business, if you want to make money like a legit business, you need to run it like a legit business. Number 4 is holiday lighting. Now this one, it's highly seasonal for obvious reasons, but if you play it right, you can make more money in 2 months than some businesses make all year. Startup costs, they're going to vary from anywhere from $2,000 to $5,000 for the ladders, the clips, and the lights. Maybe you got some of this, that's going to cut down on those costs, but these jobs, you can require deposits to help cover any kind of upfront costs, right? Pre-sell a few jobs, take those deposits, buy the things that you need to get the jobs done, and then reinvest, okay? Installs range from $1,000 to $3,500, and they can climb from there for bigger residential jobs, for commercial jobs. And if you can do a couple of these a day, and you can do several of these in a single day. And like all of these businesses, customer acquisition is the key here. It's much easier if you've already got an existing service business, and then you can leverage your existing customer base, because we all know that they probably trust you if you did a good job, and they're way easier to upsell. My buddy Glenn did exactly this. He had a very successful pressure washing company, but it started to slow down for him in the winter months. So he added Christmas light installs a couple years ago, and now he doesn't even stress about the winter slowdown. He also put together the Christmas Light Boot Camp, which covers everything from the installs, the equipment, the marketing, the sales, everything that you need to know in order to hit the ground running this season. I put a link down below if you're interested in checking that out. Now, number 3 is pressure washing. Obviously, this one is close to home for me. I've been running a pressure washing business for over 20 years, and I know the ins and the outs. And startup costs can vary, just like every business that we've talked about. A nice setup that can get you started can be had for between $2,000 and $10,000, right? More if you go all in from the start. And then the jobs, they average for residential from anywhere like $300 to $1,200 for just residential, like I said. But then you have your upsells like driveways, patios, gutter cleanings. You can add window cleaning. A big one is roof cleaning. Huge profits there. And it's very easy to hit $1,000 a day in this type of business. It's one of the best starter businesses out there, in my opinion, which is why we put together How to Wash 2, which covers everything that you need to know on both commercial and residential properties in detail. Everything that I've learned over 2 decades, the chemicals, the processes, the equipment, how to do it right, how to do it fast, and how to make the most money. The link is below if you're serious about pressure washing. But remember that you need to do your market research, do things the right way, and understand that the work itself is nowhere near as difficult as establishing a legitimate business that is sustainable. Which brings us to number 2 on our list, which is line striping. This one's a hidden gem. Startup costs can be as little as a paint roller, a pole, some tape, and some paint, and then you can scale up to anywhere from $4,000 to $15,000 for like a professional line striping machine, the paint, the stencils, the things that get it done fast, efficiently, and profitably. But these jobs, they pay big, $1,500 to $5,000 per project. My buddy Chris, he went from making minimum wage to running multiple crews across multiple states, tackling huge jobs, and he's absolutely crushing it. But it wasn't easy. He didn't have a blueprint when he started. He had to learn everything the hard way, and that is why he created How to Stripe, so you don't have to reinvent the wheel. He lines out everything so you don't have to reinvent the wheel. This is the most in-depth training that you can possibly get in line striping. So if you're interested, there's a link down below for that as well. Now, number 1, this is seal coating. Now, seal coating is another hidden gem. Startup costs are between $5,000 to $20,000 for your tank, your sprayer, and your trailer. Projects average anywhere from $2,000 to $7,000, and the profit margins, they are fantastic. It works great as a standalone business, but it also pairs perfectly with line striping. Both residential and commercial properties need this service. There are lots of upsells here as well, like crack filling, gator patching, and line striping after the job is done. And like many of these businesses we talked about today, it is recurring. Now, it's not every week, it's not every month, or even every year. But when you get in, you do it right, you stay in front of the customers until they need you again. If this sounds like something that you are interested in, Chris actually just put together How to Seal Coat, which is hands down the best training if you want to get started in this field. It highlights every aspect of the business, the equipment, the procedures, the processes, laid out in a blueprint that is easy to understand, easy to follow, easy to learn. And there you have it. Those are the top 10 service businesses that can make you $1,000 a day or more if you run them the right way. Some of these are easier to start than others. Some require more investment than others, but every single one has the potential if you are willing to put in the work. Now, these opportunities are real. The money is out there. Anyway, we appreciate you guys watching the video. If you've got any questions, leave them in the comments section down below, and we'll see you on the next one.